Mr. Abdul Magdi, business coach and consultant. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's a lot of change in weather today, so I get my sweater on.
Mr. Abdul, from your point of view, what are the major opportunities and challenges facing the SMEs nowadays in Egypt?
Yeah, I think like SMEs is like the biggest question mark and exclamation mark when it comes to the Egyptian economy, because we know that over 90% of employment in Egypt goes to micro, small, medium enterprises. And also we see a lot of potential from that sector all around the world. And I think like according to a lot of like economic projections, Egypt is projected to be among the one of the 11th largest economies. And that requires change in the small and medium enterprises sector. And from my perspective, working closely with entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises in the past 12 years, I can see that there's movements that could be done with the entrepreneur, the person who's running the business, and the way they lead the business. And these actually also, they start getting more apparent with the changes in economic conditions, with technology, etc. And I think like on top of that comes into that the idea that goes on with change always. Are you fixed or are you changing with the change? So it's fixed versus growth mindset. Are you growing with the changes, or are you fixed in the way things are working? I think this is a very, very big challenge for like businesses and individuals who had been like running a certain lifestyle, thinking in a certain way, and now they need to change that into like, this is the way it works. This is a new way it works, and that's how we should grow with it. And second to that, and also a sub idea to that, is basically lots of businesses are relying on what we call it hand to mouth, which basically I'm going to go, it's like employment. It's just like remaining by the end of every month that I get my check and then I live off that check. And I think majority of small and medium enterprises are also kind of being operated with the owner thinking the same way, which also it's a downside when it comes to innovation and looking at different possible ideas and changes. So how do you really escape this hand-to-mouth lifestyle? And I think with that also there is a sense of excessive competition. So there is a sense of copycatting anything that happens. So if there is a type of business that's working right now, like there is a lot of copycats that operate on that business, and there is little innovation, and there is a huge sense of like it's all competition other than looking at the strategic partnerships. So all these are different variables that if the owner and the entrepreneur focuses on solving that within themselves, I think they would be capable of getting over any changes or challenges within the economic environment in which they operate.
Right. Now, when it comes to business and small businesses specifically, personal contacts and relationships are very crucial. How far do you think personal contacts would lead to the success of a small business?
I think definitely while operating a business, getting personal with the people that you work with could actually for building better relationships and much more fluid dynamics of how do you interact. But I think one of the challenges for the way that we operate businesses in Egypt is that it becomes about for very strategic decisions in terms of who I'm going to bring in to do a specific job. It becomes about those that I'm most connected with, not those who are most competent, which is it's always a downside for businesses, because if I want to make my business successful in a competitive environment, I have to be looking for the most competitive way to do things. And if I rely on my personal connections, on like people who I kind of owe something or they owe me something, so there is always these kind of relationships that's slightly complicated, and these really influence the decision making in which that who do I bring to the business. So getting into a pragmatic mindset in terms of I have a problem and I want to fix it. Who's the best person to do that, even if I have never met this person before, or I never heard of this company before. So getting more, being pragmatic, like a pragmatist about how do I solve problems in a very practical way. This is a very much needed, while also maintaining the personal connections with the people that you work with.
Yes. Mr. Abdul, how does operating in a hand-to-mouth versus the capital finance style make a real difference for the owners of the SMEs?
Exactly. You know, if we think about SMEs in different sectors, let's take the tourism sector as one of these examples. If I'm operating a tourism facility, there's most likely lots of things to do in terms of maintenance operations in the facility that I manage. There could be lots of marketing work that I can do in terms of highlighting like the different programs that I can offer my visitors, etc. And that all requires investment. So I need a a bunch of money set aside for these kind of activities. And if I'm operating hand to mouth, which means that I wait to make money out of the clients who come to me to be able to spend and to live off of that and my family, by then I have a very little chance of being able to make that investment into this project that's going to turn the business around. So the way businesses succeed is that you make investment. You bump in capital for a specific objective or like money for a specific project, and this project brings in outcomes as a result of this project. So operating hand to mouth is a big challenge for people to move beyond just doing this job and then this job and this job. And right now there is a lot of opportunities for people to start thinking in terms of finance. There are different finance vehicles, whether it's lending or it's equity. So if someone really is running a business and they see that they want to grow it by 10x, so this might be a fabulous opportunity for them to talk to equity investors. You go to people and tell them that I'm going to sell you 10% of the company. Today you're going to pay £1 million. In 5 years, this £1 million that you paid might actually be £20, depending on how the company is going to grow as a result of you putting the £1 million right now in my company. So this is an equity investment, and this is an opportunity for businesses that thinks in terms of big growth. So if you're thinking about 10x, this is possibly a good idea for you to go on an equity investment, and you're going to find the investors who are willing and hopefully able also to make this investment. On the other hand, if you're a small business and you have a smaller project and you're looking at growth that's not necessarily to that level, by then you can actually go for loans. And there are like different vehicles that exist, including the Egyptian banking sector and different other like trade finance organization that's like to finance different deals and allow entrepreneurs and businesses to be able to supply like the products they expect to supply or do the operation that they want. So these vehicles already exist. And I think also a downside is that mostly it is not part of the mindset of majority of Egyptian businesses to seek external finance. So it's kind of rare for them to think in terms of, I'm going to get an equity investor, I'm going to sell and get a partner for 10% of the company. It seems like a foreign idea, and it could be.
Yes.
And also in terms of like thinking about the downside of getting a loan from the bank, etc. And also there could be some like challenges in terms of going through the administrative process, etc. So these all are reasons that keeps a lot of businesses operating hand to mouth, which is it's hindrance to a lot of growth potential for the economy. So if we're thinking about freeing the economy and moving it to the next level, we have to both make this vehicle more ready to receive entrepreneurs, and also we invite more vehicles to exist in the market. At the same time, we have to be teaching the entrepreneurs and working with them closely on getting them ready to identify what kind of capital do we need and how do we prepare ourselves to be able to talk with the investors or the lenders.
As an expert in the field of SMEs or small and medium enterprises, what fields in Egypt would you encourage young entrepreneurs to start with?
Yeah, I think like the answer to that comes down to the entrepreneur themselves. So one of the things we think about, especially if we're getting for a startup, is that people usually succeed in what they are most passionate about, because building a company is a tough process and there are going to be a lot of failures. So if we're talking to young entrepreneurs about what they need to pursue, I think that has to come naturally to them out of discovering what they are most talented and what they are most passionate and what they think they can make money off.
And what the market needs also. I'm talking about market needs here in Egypt.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like we have a concept that we like to kind of demonstrate to young people who are looking for that, which is what we call the hedgehog concept. And there is a very interesting idea from a business book that's really studied American companies and why some companies grow and why some fails, and they came up with the idea of like if there's a wolf and he would like to eat either a fox or a hedgehog, which do you think he's going to go for? A hedgehog or a fox? I mean, like they're going to start with the fox. They're going to start with the fox, but the fox is pretty smart. So the fox has a lot of talents.
Yes.
So the fox is going to get over the tree. He's going to give the wolf a hard time. But then if the wolf tries to attack the hedgehog is not going to do anything. He's going to just like export its peaks, etc. So this would actually challenge that despite that the fox is pretty smart, it has a lot of talents and a lot of ideas, but then the hedgehog do have only one thing, but you cannot get over this one thing. So an idea that you need to really understand what is your one thing that you should be focusing on. And then there are like 3 circles that you can draw, and you can do this right now. Is that basically what I'm most passionate about? So I can write down what I'm most passionate about, what I'm competent at, what do I do best, and where are the economic opportunities. If I see something that matches, that I'm really passionate about that, I'm competent at it, and also I can make money out of it, so by then this is an area that I need to focus on.
Right.
Mr. Abdou Magdi, our business consultant.